Hi there, this is Crystal Blue, and I'm back to do the last part. I believe it will be the last part of its elemental reading number 2. So, in the first part, I did an introduction. I don't remember how many minutes it was. It was a little bit of a lengthy intro. The second part is where I shuffled the cards on camera, of course, and created these 3 piles. It's not a pick a deck or pick a pile reading or pick a card reading, whatever you want to call it. This is past, present, and future, near future, future potential energy. And of course, nobody knows the future except for the higher power. And so this particular reading is providing additional clarification for the overall message that came through when I was talking about the cards initially. Okay, so this is just the clarification part, and I'm probably only going to spend about an hour because I'll have to be off the computer. So I have other things I have to take care of, but I do want to go ahead and read. I'm going to probably read mostly from the books to provide the clarification, but I do have a few index cards to correlate about the big story that was hunting me, that has been filtering through many of the readings that I've done as guided by Spirit to not only communicate what Spirit wants you to understand, but also in the context of my particular life path. Okay, so that's why I'm here. Not just sharing my story, quote unquote, but it's been my life path. And this life path of mine does show that divine guidance has been and continues to be at play despite the devil and devils in the details, okay? And those are the ones that, as I've said in the past, Snoopy and I have been uh, working on sleuthing. So, and there are other people doing this too as oracle readers and tarot readers, and shout out to them. They know who they are. They're the ones for justice, truth, liberty, freedom, spiritual freedom, physical freedom, financial freedom, freedom for every body on this planet, including animals, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom. Everything's under siege right now, it seems, including our, our animals and plants, believe it or not. And what's being vetted through the quote-unquote justice system in America is horrific, basically. So I heard a statement, I guess about a year or so ago. I hadn't ever heard this before, but I do tend to agree with it, knowing what I've experienced, both inside and outside the courtroom. But I'm going to say it again here. And that's why love is going to usurp the darkness, because love is more powerful than this evil, okay? But the statement that I heard, and I don't remember where I heard it, it could have been from a book, and if it was from a book, then I give credit to the person who wrote it in the book, where it may have been stated, but it is Satan is a legalist. So that is basically what I discovered by fighting for justice in my life, in my community, involving my child, my animals, my house, my work environment, work environments, and it's only gotten more toxic for more people. So that tells you the injustice has been seeded and has been growing a very dark and ugly creation, whatever it, I mean, it's essentially rivaling God's creations, okay? And trying to take down and tear down God's creation and creations. Excuse me, and see my throat's tightening up. So, those spirits do not want us talking about it or me talking about it. But we have to feel it and own it and sleuth it and stop it. And that's part of growing up and growing and moving into the new earth, okay? So you'll see in pile 3 for the future, near future, that I will give a reference to my Earth is Magical readings, specifically reading number 4. So if I forget to say that, please do visit all of my Earth is Magical readings at a minimum, okay? Because that will give you some hope. So I'm going to quickly move through this because, like I said, I have to give up the computer tonight for really good cause. So I'll be back on it at a later date. But do visit me on Patreon. And my handle on there is Blue Crystal, BlueChristYL. And I will put a caveat in there. I'm working on, there are several tiers. There's 6 tiers, and at least 3 of them are heavily populated right now. And the others provide an opportunity for others to interface with me if they so choose on a monthly basis. One is for personal guidance, and another one is kind of more fun. It's a mystery and history type endeavor, and who knows where it will go, right? It's like oracle readings. You don't know what's going to come out. You just stay present and you ask for the guidance, and then you have the topics that you need to talk about. That's how every single one of these readings has come about. So, the mystery is in the history, as I've said on my Twitter feed, at Blue Crystal as well. If you hear the little ring in the background, it's because I'm archiving some of my documentation right now. So I'm just kind of in a time crunch, so I hope this works out. It kind of sounds like angel harps. So perhaps you can just look at it that way. Okay, so it's interesting. I noticed that I placed the cards with the animal tarot and the language of flowers oracle cards first for these first 2 piles, and the other one, the third one, which is the future potential, I put the energy card first. So I'm just going to leave it like that because I think that's how Spirit probably wants me to talk about it. But basically, what I am trying to incorporate in many of my messages is an appreciation for the planet that we call home. And the way that we show appreciation for our home planet, Earth, is to care about it, right? And that can be done a number of different ways, but a number of people are grossly and negligently failing in doing so. So the newest hashtag that I'm promoting is hashtag standard of care, which is a legal term. It's legalese, and you can look that up. But you can, from your vantage point, figure out where you can step in and improve and increase the standard of care in your communities. So I'm going to sage this real quickly. And I also have some sage burning here. That needs to be lit just a little more. We'll even sage Snoopy because he's been very busy. Also, I posted about how friendly the seals can be. So you want to protect the aquatic life, the animal kingdom, because they are far more evolved than we give them credit for. And I'll never forget when I traveled to Hawaii after divorcing the first time, and I went on a little boat cruise, and I got so much joy, and it was like a sunset cruise, and saw some whales. But also, I've been to Hawaii several times, and it feels like my home. So I must have lived there in a past life. I'm almost sure of it now, but there is some connection to Hermes and Atlantis and Hawaii, okay, and also the dolphins in Atlantis. So I have a little dolphin out here as well, okay, and so we need to protect our aquatic life, and we don't use them to go hunt for missiles and bombs that have been dumped into the ocean after war, etc. And we don't use them to go find, you know, I know the Navy's been using the dolphins because I've learned this from a Navy SEAL and how they've been used. So, it's like the military needs to clean house on how they're using and abusing animals for the purpose of war, even in peacetime. So I'm cleansing the space of all that negativity and setting an intention for a higher standard of care inside and outside of our U.S. military, and involving the lies and manipulations around quote unquote national security that is being abused, as are many citizens called targeted individuals, including myself. Okay, so we're entering into a new time, and those experiences are experiences that many of us have had that will be cleansed from our systems as we move it more into the new earth. But of course, we still have memories, and we're still in human skin. So, we have to help each other clean up by cleansing ourselves. Okay. So, do take the opportunity to cleanse with meditations, including those by Steve Noble, who does a fantastic job. Um, and there's another one called Zen Life, I believe, a YouTube channel. So you can check out Steve Noble, and I think it's Zen Life. and and gain more grounding and calmness in your spiritual mastery. Okay. So with this first pile in the recent past, is the African violet, about spirituality. Okay. And it says, it's time to connect with what you believe. Saint Paulia is the botanical name for African violet. I used to grow these quite a bit when I was younger and first married and working at a military base in California. And they sure are beautiful. They're almost velvety and soft to the touch. So out of the gate, we're talking about spirituality, and that's part of improving the standard of care on our planet. Okay. It's a higher standard of care. It's a higher form of love and expressing love and camaraderie and care, okay? Compassion. So the animal tarot is the Eight of Spring. So I'm going to read this one first. And I'm going to set this, let's see if it'll stay right here. We also have roosters outside, so that's why I prefer to do this at night, because they're usually tucked into bed. Okay, so this says B, getting busy, having too much to do, juggling priorities, the need to multitask, important information. Bees symbolize stress that comes from having too many irons in the fire. However, these irons, quote unquote, are often very happy and exciting too. Think of 8 wonderful, thrilling things you'd love to have happen in your life. Now imagine that they all happen at once. Chances are you'd be pretty overwhelmed. However, the stress you would be feeling would be from trying to juggle so many wonderful blessings all at once. So the bees are coming through to tell us something. Bees indicate the need to prioritize. Relaying or receiving very important messages is also involved, as is air travel. Bees are delightful creatures whose lives are lived among beautiful flowers, furthering life on earth through pollination while creating honey for the hive. In short, they're busy doing very important and lovely things. Busy as a bee is also an old expression and an apt message in relation to this card energy. Marigolds were chosen as the flowers depicted on this card because they represent breaking tasks down into manageable pieces so that everything can get done without being overwhelming. So do take these options that are coming up due to past effort. So you'll notice that the flower marigold is beautifully intricate with dozens of perfectly overlapping petals clustered into florets to form the final blossom. Just as small individual steps do build into an end goal or beautiful dream. Similarly, then, it is the contribution of each bee, like each petal, that collectively forms into a honeycomb. If life feels stressful, then remember to be grateful for all of the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you, and just take one step at a time. And that's what I spoke about in My Earth is Magical reading about this Stairway to Heaven, right? And it's interesting that this particular card is also incorporating in a discussion about flowers, and that you can see those beautiful marigolds right there. So there are opportunities buzzing on into the present. Okay, so this is the past, recent past, and it takes energy for these to form, right? These opportunities to start forming. And this is a spring card. So there are many opportunities forming and coming our way at this time, right? As we move into the present and the future, near future. So you want to be ready to take those ones that are most beneficial for your purpose, okay? Now I'm going to read from the energy deck. And I think I'm going to shut this window real quick. There we go. Excuse me. Okay, So the energy card that is coming through for the recent past, is door to personal healing and happiness. Okay. So there's a dove on here. There's some lotus flowers. Okay. And then we have a rainbow. So happier times are coming. This is pretty much what I had intuited from the fall onward, talking about the fact that we would have some difficult energies to get through, and that's what astrologers have been talking about for several months as well. So I'm going to read the door to personal healing and happiness. But it's a choice that you have to make. Do you want to open up to happiness or keep letting in, the bad energy? Like, you wouldn't let bad guys in, so don't let bad energy in. You kind of have to see energy in those ways, strangely enough. But it's hard because a lot of people do wear masks, and it's hard to figure out who's on the up and up these days. Door to personal healing and happiness. New beginnings in your personal life. So the bees are bringing in the new, and the marigolds are, they're yellow, right? So they show the yellow, these are, solar plexus and sacral chakra energy colors. So this is, improving one's well-being by cleansing the chakras. And this involves, sexual addictions, sexual hang-ups, sexual dominance. That's sacral chakra. It's not solar plexus. So those who are using dominance in these ways, and also through the war machine, are actually not functioning from a place of true empowerment. But it is domination, and that's why I speak so much about it, because they're dominating over other people's happiness, people who are already peaceful, but for the intrusion of this, the dark energy that is clouding their ability to understand their own sovereignty, let alone anybody else's. And that's, root and sacral chakra hangups, which I've tweeted about. So the color yellow is a color that was discussed in my readings, and also Amanda Ellis was talking about the lack of yellow showing up in her readings for quite some time. And so the yellow color is showing up here as you walk through this door, this arch. And I remember arches were significant to me at a really pivotal time in my life when I was disconnecting from that energy as well, that war machine energy. So we have arches there. We also have the arch on the back of the Animal Tarot card here with the cat sitting on the throne, and there's an arch around it, okay, around the cat, and there's a crown. And you'll also recall from the second part of this reading the crown charm that was coming through, and that is right here, okay, and the rose quartz, which is about, heart chakra and love. That's raw rose quartz that somebody gave me that I met. Just a stranger, really pleasant, very kind, and asked me if I would be interested in some, as well as jasper. So perhaps you would want to get with your nearest dealer in rocks and minerals and crystals, and get yourself some rose quartz. And you can also contact me for spiritual guidance involving crystal grids, and I'd be happy to help you. So here, the door to personal healing and happiness, which is buzzing on in, right, with opportunities, and this rainbow that you see, says new beginnings are here as you walk through this door, okay? And so collectively, many of us are doing this on the planet because we've chosen that we want to live in the on the new earth, essentially, and that's the celebration, right? Remember when I told you I found a card or a candle about that, about celebration. So there's the candle right there, and the celebration is coming. There are more readers picking up on this celebration energy just today. Even I listened to Maji, Maji, the High Priestess. I believe that's what her channel name is on YouTube. But yeah, so the energy is in the air, and the bees are flying in the air to bring us some sweetness, okay, after all the strife. So here in the upright, the door to personal healing and happiness is a harbinger of positive change. The beautiful light-filled door opens onto a lush rainbow-lit spring field with vibrant lotus flowers. So that's a rainbow-lit spring, okay? And that's why I said the lotus flowers are floating in that spring. And water is cleansing, right? Whether you're working on some inner healing, such as breaking an addiction, which I just talked about, or looking to make some external changes, such as finding a new place to live, this card signals that your life is opening up and new opportunities are about to appear. The changes that you've been working on, which is what I said in relation to the bees flying in, it's taken some time to get the energy movement, right, and get the wings going. And, you know, there's something in the air, quote unquote, but it's good. The changes that we're working on are ready to blossom with wonderful results. And we also have blossoms here with the marigolds, as well as the flower card, right? The African violet. So the changes that are blossoming with wonderful results will help you see that your personal intentions, they will help you make sure to see your personal intentions through with continued action and optimistic expectation. So it's staying in the positive, being optimistic, regardless of the negativity around. Step in with positive intention and continue to take those steps. Okay? So this card is not in the reverse, so that's good, right? Because in the reverse, it means we're stuck. But we aren't stuck. We do have free will to choose new, right? New beginnings in the springtime. And that's what is manifesting. That's a number 34, which is a 7. It's part of a spiritual journey. And also you might want to look up the Shemitah cycle as well. The B card here says, you've been presented with many wonderful opportunities all at once. While this may feel very stressful, remember to be grateful for the blessings that heaven is sending you. Okay? And if perhaps one doesn't work out, other ones will be coming along. And surely you can believe in that, right? That's part of being optimistic. The EleMental Oracle. So remember, this is how the cards, I shuffled the cards and this is how they ended up in the pile. So this is how I'm going to read them. And I pulled out my astrocartography notes earlier today, along with the card explaining, how the big story, quote unquote, was hunting me, and that citation or quote I take out of the book by Robert Moss, The Three Only Things. So do get that book, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, um, because it does matter. God was actually directing me away from what was not meant for me and was not good for me, step by step. And that was a book that was coming to me along with other more difficult reads that I needed to realize that energy, the dark energy around me. But the big story was hunting me, yet God was giving me clear direction on how to navigate through it and out of it. And also to work to rebalance the many ecosystems on our planet, and step in and discuss the importance of an increased or higher standard of care, and the need for environmental justice. Okay, so I talked about the air as one element, and also at the bottom of the deck for the elemental oracle is the fire card. So right out of the gate, we're talking about air. There's the rainbow and the sun in the background with the dove, and we have the bees and the marigolds, right? And we also are talking about fire, okay? And this is ignition. But I talked about the ignition in positive terms, mystical, magical ways, not burning down the place and not burning down the planet, right? Because we do know that machinery and people involved in the war machine are doing the opposite. So that was the big story that was hunting me through relationships. And those are the ships that I had to get off of. And so, step by step, Spirit did guide me away from just such energy. And angelic guidance was near. In fact, this is coming up in other readings and on Coast to Coast AM radio, in relation to harbingers and hope, because here I had written about the angel Heniel and the card hope, and I had heard someone say to me that was close to me for many years, and then someone I couldn't be around anymore because of this negativity. I clearly had a lot of hope, but the person that I was being guided away from did not. Okay, so hope is key. Okay, and hope is going to help heal our planet from HAARP, HAARP, and other types of machinery that cuts the earth, the skin of the earth, if you will, like a knife. Just as, gangsters, slice people with weapons, and in past wars, we know that different types of weapons have been used. The book that comes to my mind to redirect this message in a kind of more understandable way instead of a disturbing one is to read the book Guns, Germs, and Steel, and you will see how our natural resources have been engineered over time for not good purposes, and certainly not for national security purpose. Okay, so I'm not going to get into this, but I do want to say here that God is not here to do this for us. We each have to step in and step up and step forward with faith and put on your your armor of God to do this, okay? And when you do that, you'll gain more protection, believe it or not, and you will also build your spiritual muscle and have a soul expansion. That's where the true abundance comes from. The materialism is at the lower energy levels, and that's why I correlate that to industrialism and industrial isms. Okay, so also look at your natal chart and you will learn so much about what's happening now in relation to the eclipses. Tomorrow we have a lunar eclipse. I think it's a lunar eclipse in Taurus. I'll post it. It's just not on my mind right now, but I know it's April 30th. And you can listen to Pam Gregory. We had one in Taurus, in the constellation of Taurus, in November of 2021. So listen to my November 2021 messages on YouTube and Patreon. You can find them on Patreon under the initial tier. I think I put it under tier 1. But that's talking about the shift. The Wheel of Fortune was showing up in the middle position at that point, indicating that there was this shift away from such darkness. And I talked about the quote-unquote devils in the details in more detail, if you will, in that reading, my November 19th, 2021 reading involving the Taurus lunar eclipse, partial lunar eclipse. So now we're in Taurus again, 5 to 6 months later, and we are shifting through this because we know that the celebration of moving into the new earth is becoming more possible. Because back then we were still in our caves, and that was also coming through in a reading that I posted on YouTube and on Patreon as well. And you can see that in relation to the Milky Way card and the cave card, okay? So we're talking about growing, expanding our humanity as 21st century human beings, not 12th century or, barbaric, lesser evolved brains from thousands of years past, okay? So this cave energy is coming through as a past energy message and energy involving, remember, the crown. So that's like the monarchy and the oligarchy that's still trying to wrestle us down in barbaric ways, as we try to find protection in our caves, in our modern day caves, with all these barbaric, lesser evolved people trying to ratchet down and control humanity and become more inhumane. So this is what we're being protected from, and that's the big story that was hunting me, and Spirit was guiding me through it, okay? So, and me and my family. Of course, everybody has free will, so it's been a devil of a time, no pun intended, for me to try to keep articulating how important it is for people to gain a higher perspective of what really is being promulgated in low-life ways, okay? Because those people are taking steps to do the unthinkable. So we have to think more proactively and progressively, because they're not progressive. they're actually regressive, okay? So, dragonfly is the ally, animal ally, and the gemstone guardian that's showing up as the amethyst cathedral, which indicates a crown chakra, um, the importance of opening up your crown chakra to gain higher guidance, okay? So I'll read that in just a minute, but I'm going to read the elemental oracle about the cave. And here it is, number 17, which correlates to the star card number, which correlates to hope, okay? In traditional tarot. Protection, cave. You are loved and protected in your endeavors. Know yourself. Take silent time, which is good for you, for mental health. Retreating after periods of extreme hard work is a positive. Be embraced by nature. And I've said that many times. Go out in nature. Um, Ground yourself near a tree. I'm being reminded to do that as I still work in 3D myself, and then remind myself that I need rest and I also need grounding. So the word of power associated with this card is Clypeus, which is shield, Latin for shield. Caves can be considered to be the first human shelter and temples. These natural spaces in the ground or by the sea, and including rock walls or rocks, provided shelter and temperature control in extreme environments, which is what we're living in now. And it's unfortunately man-made extremes, which I've discussed already in multiple readings, and I've discussed it in my It's Elemental series as well. And the reasons why, and also the reason that Spirit has me as an environmental scientist with a specific background communicating about these extreme environmental conditions. So, for example, fire for warmth and cooking would be safe from wind and precipitation in a cave. Caves are normally formed by erosion, most commonly of limestone, and eroded by water or by wind. Caves are the natural habitat for specific bacteria, plants, and animals such as bats and salamanders. So here, this author, Stacy DeMarco, is talking about several kingdoms, not just the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom, but the smaller kingdom in which bacteria and other types of very small critters and beings are categorized taxonomically, okay? So again, plant species and animals such as bats and salamanders have found caves to be a natural haven. And caves became a natural haven for those who were communicating with the gods and ancestors through art, which is why Spirit has me communicating to the masses in the ways in which I've been guided to, which I never thought I would ever do. But there are many things that have transpired that I didn't know were ever going to transpire. Even though I had been studying the Bible and knew of end times, I didn't know exactly what it would look like or what I would be doing, where I would be doing it, and when. And that's what many of us are coming to realize, that, we do need protection and that we do have protection from the higher power, because the power, quote unquote, bestowed of men or in men is failing us. The oldest cave art found at the time of writing is from South Africa, and it's estimated to be about 170,000 years old, the art. And the author here talks about the location called Pinnacle Point. So in my estimation, just reading this, we are at this pinnacle. Okay, there are those who are evolving on this planet, and there are those of us who are not. And that's what I call biblically, in correlation biblically to it's God's way of separating the wheat from the chaff, and it's been by choice, by free will. So you don't want to be cowed into things that don't make you feel good. And that's what I listen to. I stop just thinking linearly and thinking as a trained scientist in government and private sector. I had to start tuning into my feelings, which comes in your gut, which is where your sacral chakra is, and just above your root chakra, and then also, sacral chakra is in between the solar plexus and the root chakra. So this is what I'm talking about. It's part of evolving. And that's what this gateway or this portal or arch is also depicting here, just as I've shown in other readings with that archway or that gateway, and you see the sun and the moon and the clouds. Okay? So the heavens are speaking to us just like they have to these aboriginals who were producing cave art 170,000 years ago. Sacred caves used for rituals, such as those in Crete, India, and also China, often contain sacred paintings and statues and were further hollowed out to be expanded. The fact that many caves have incredible sound qualities, such as magnification of sound or echoing, also allows for more otherworldly aspects to come to the fore. So, they did depict what they saw to the best of their ability, much as these cards and our ways and modes of communicating are helping us similarly in the 21st century. Caves were seen also by some cultures as portals to other worlds or underworlds and were utilized as burial sites. The element coming through in this part of the reading not only is air, but it's earth, okay? So we have earth, air, and fire that we're speaking about, but we also talked about water in relation to this portal with the lily pond or the lily pads and the water lilies, excuse me. Okay. So the Amethyst Cathedral, let's talk about that because that's an arch shape as well, right? And we know that caves, like I've spoken in my Earth is Magical reading number 4 about Luray Caverns in the eastern United States that I visited, and I talked quickly about the stalactite and stalagmite deposits. But here, the amethyst crystal card says, have you noticed that there are people or situations that need the real truth to be revealed? Are you ready to break through the illusions that others have projected, or perhaps the illusions that you've created yourself? It's time for you to work through emotions, which involves water as well, right? And happiness is an emotion, right? So it's time for you to work through emotions that create misconceptions, both those that you create for yourself and those that you create for others. And I even like to say here against others, because there's a lot of this drama being man-made so that certain control dramas can take root. And you can read more about control dramas, which is what Spirit was guiding me to learn more about around 9/11, when I first divorced, and for good cause. And the book that I was guided to, well, there were two, actually three at the time. The one about control dramas specifically, but about holding a vision of a better future, a more hopeful future, is the Celestine Prophecy and the Celestine Vision, and the 10th Insight. Okay. I also recommend that you get the book, not just those three books by James Redfield, which I've previously talked about, but also The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukov, who was a former Army Ranger, U.S. Army Ranger. And, if he can get it, I don't understand why other people in the military can't come to that level of maturation that Gary Zukov has emotionally. But get the book, The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukov, Zukav, and also get the book Sacred Contracts, Awakening to Your Divine Potential, I believe is the subtitle, by Carolyn Myss, Myss. And I'll be using her deck, her Archetypes deck, in my personal reading. So if you want a personal reading to help guide you, you can contact me at Crystal Blue for You. That's the number 4, and then you at outlook.com. Crystal Blue, ChristylBlue, for you, number 4, and you at outlook.com. Okay, so use your dreams then as a tool to balance your emotions, which will help you stop creating misconception in your mind. And basically what I'm trying to teach is to think with your heart, because that's where I had to drop down out of my highly left linear developed brain, and I was trying to do more art and even do dancing and writing. Even though writing is left brain, I was trying to do more creative writing. I wrote a book about what I was experiencing, and that book is called Pass Forward, which I'm going to finish in 2022. Okay, I'm being prompted to write more, and so I'm listening to Spirit's guidance on that, and then I'll be able to publish the entire thing, which was blocked several years back. So the dragonfly, I wrote about the dragonfly on my first website, my first spiritual website called Science Spirituality University.com. It's no longer up. My website, Science Spirituality University.info, is up, and you can contact me there as well. But I wrote about the dragonfly, and it involved emergence. So what do we have here in this recent past position is the dragonfly. So something is emerging, right? Something is emerging, and it showed a goddess emerging from a pool of water. Okay, and there's a pool of water right here. And I think she even had a lily pads around her hair. It comes from another deck. I think it was from the Earth Magic deck, actually, by Stephen D. Farmer. So yes, there is this emergence of this new Earth and the goddess energy to balance out this hypermasculine warring energy. And this says here, I am ready to transform my life into one filled with truth and clarity. So again, there's truth. On the back side, it talks about truth. the need for the real truth to be revealed. So the real truth is emerging, okay? And part of that involves this goddess issue and the manipulation of the goddess and the woman and the mother, okay? It's a super strong message, and that's part of what was hunting me to try to get me to conform to this mens rea or mental state. Mens rea is another legal term. So the justice system in the United States and likely in other places has been maligned, has been realigned, like many military bases were realigned under BRAC, in the 90s, to institute this increased control of families and women and have a war on women and family and community. And this is what's emerging right now. And it's tied in with 9/11 and ISIS, okay? And the Catholic Church. So this says here, I'm ready to transform my life into one filled with truth and clarity. And this is what this is the journey that I've been on to get to that truth and that clarity. It's easy for me to transform and also transmute challenging situations. And this is exactly what I've had to do. So that's why Spirit wanted me to share, not everything about me and my situation, but I have shared enough to help people start gaining a better sense of just how much we've been lied to politically, but also socially, the social engineering manipulations. And you can read about that involving Edward Bernays, Saul Alinsky, even, Freud and Jung were talking about specific issues, and psychology has been manipulated. So has the psychological manuals, the DSM manuals. I've talked about me coming to the understanding of how disorders are being reworded inside the military to make it look like what they're doing is orderly and correct and logical and sensical. But we can see in the environment that what has been happening is quite the opposite. So my hashtag help animals too is what I keep promoting for people to step in, step up, and help the animals get away from this psychoses and neuroses that sees the animals and the woman and even the children as sacrificial lambs, okay? So my understanding of symbols helps me with self-awareness. My emotions are balanced. Okay, so when you're communing with the higher power, you stay more balanced. If you get stuck in this matrix full of symbology that is twisted, including even the Nazi cross, which is a sun cross that they tweaked and twisted, and they twisted all kinds of information and things to suit their cult practices and occultism, and try to call it sustainable, and sustainability is really it's just the Hitler legacy couched in the green industry now, as it was in the Industrial Revolution in the 1900s and the 19th and the 20th centuries during the Industrial Revolution, right? Because they've taken air travel and the airplane fashioned after air, beings that fly naturally in the air. Even DARPA, DARPA, which was founded by Dwight D. Eisenhower, he warned us of the quote-unquote all too powerful military-industrial complex, which is essentially what I had to divorce because they got in my personal life when I remarried, and I had no idea that that's what the game plan was, but that's what it was. But they've even created robotic dogs. There's even reports that robotic insects are going to be flying around. So, this artificial intelligence is stuff that was, to me, it's more alien-like. It's robotic. It's, the Hitler legacy surely has instituted into the 21st century the alien agenda and the alien technology that is already understood and known to be brought into existence during World War II when Hitler ruled. And he was the second Antichrist. So what does that tell you about the fake versus the natural? It's essentially a war not just against Christians or Christ-like beings, but it's a war against God's creations, right? So what is emerging is the truth about all of this. And I'm part of anchoring in this new earth that also involves anchoring in the truth and shining a light on the lies. So that's part of this dragonfly emergence, and it involves the goddess, and it also involves crystals, because we are energetically shifting into more light-based beings as we evolve and become more crystalline. Okay? So let me check the time here. 6:30. I think I have another 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to get into the next part of the reading, which is the present message. So I talked a lot about the past, right? And I talked about the oligarchy that has been birthed or formed from essentially monarchical past manipulations, right? So that certain bloodlines survive and other ones are run down. Kind of like, what happened in the situation in England in 1997. Okay. All right. So again, we're talking about improving the standard of care, and we're doing that not only through spirituality, but science, where where we can see the medical system is failing us in America and even globally in China, where, people in hazmat suits are pulling innocent Chinese people out of their houses and trying to make them comply. That's straight up evil, as is boiling dogs alive, because the government won't feed their people or care. Okay, so I'm not talking about a standard of care just improving in the United States. I'm talking about and instituting with my positive intention at this great juncture, okay, to bring a standard of care that's much higher for the whole world, right? There's going to be no more starvation. Okay, so the It's Elemental card, in case I get interrupted and have to stop this reading and then commence tomorrow. The It's Elemental card for the present energy for reading number 2 in April 2022. But also, it's, for the present to near future is the rock, okay? And we just talked about caves and rocks and, rocks providing us protection inside. But also, I'm talking about rocks, okay? I'm talking about minerals as rocks, right? Because minerals are in rocks and they're also providing us internal protection as we move into the new earth, right? With the minerals, with the not just the composition of the rock and the mineral, but the color and the clarity and the cleansing that crystals are going to be providing us. It's also in the Bible. Um, I didn't write it down, but I think it might be Isaiah 22. Isaiah 22:22 is popping up in my mind. But, oh yes, Gina Marie Colvin Hill is reading about the book of Enoch, is reading the book of Enoch. And I have shared the book of Enoch and about the Watchers, which I'm talking about in this past energy too, right? This is, the Watchers have been watching our planet for a long time. So that's why many civilizations, in my estimation, have failed, because civilization gets to a certain point and then something happens and then something happens and then something happens and it has to start all over again, right? Well, there's a reason for that. So it's energetically impacting us, this dark energy, and it's something that we have to learn to not only transform through but transmute. And we are, in my estimation, successfully doing it this time around. And that's part of the celebration that people won't become fully aware of probably for quite a few years. But those of us who are light workers are anchoring in the light and the new earth, the crystalline grid, if you will, which you can see if you look closely behind this tree. From space, radiating light energy onto the energy grid beneath the earth. So that's what I'm talking about. Rock here, but also endurance, because this light is going to give us the endurance that we need through this darkness that we are still having to deal with. So I'll read this card in just a minute. So the next card behind this was, actually, let's read it from this way like I did. Okay, so the red rose is the flower, the main flower for the present energy, which I think many of us can relate to when we watch on TV about these relationship endeavors. And one is about the bachelor, the bachelorette, but there have been others, right, over time where red roses have signified love and passion. And even on Valentine's Day in America, red roses are often given. But this says here, be brave, be strong, and believe. So basically, to have love in your heart and live moving forward with love and a higher standard of care requires courage. Okay? So, the animal tarot, there were many animals that came out for this one. I remember that. And I think that the message was to share them between the present and the near future, future energy. Whoops. Sorry, Snoopy. Which makes sense to me because, yeah, they're getting knocked out, knocked over. They're getting caged. They're getting injected with chemicals and left over the weekend to die. I just sent something out about that. I was livid over it. Veterinarians are doing this to the animals at the Veterans Administration um, for animal testing, I believe, which I've already posted about as well. And then there's the cow. So I'm not going to read each one of these out of the book, but we know what's happening to cows. If you watch, I can't think of the documentary, it's very hard to watch how they're brutalized as they're being slaughtered. And you can't blame, that's the other thing that I know for a fact because I worked on a program for NASA where it was measured that cows, while they do give off methane when they're, eating and off gassing, if you will, they're not the ones to blame for the very high carbon concentration, carbon monoxide, excuse me, carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere. It's essentially coming from aircraft and industry. But they always want to scapegoat and blame the woman, the animal, the dogs. Now with COVID, it's the dogs or it's the monkeys. It's always, kick the dog, kick the wife. It's always they're right and everybody else is wrong, even though they're effing up everything, including the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Okay, and the same goes for Bill Gates trying to control agriculture. These people don't have the backgrounds. They're not scientists, but they're manipulating science and paying certain scientists to toe their Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 line. And this scientist right here wouldn't do that. So that was the big story that was hunting me. But this card here says, the planning, the resources, and the efforts that you've invested in your dream will reap great rewards. So in the meantime, have patience and meditate on your next steps. And I've posted about the book of Job and having patience, and I've had to have a lot of patience and bite my tongue through a lot of this because they are harming animals. And they're going after domestic animals and even taking animals from people who own them that are, their animal companions. And they tried to do this to me as well. So don't let them take your animals and go rescue the animals who are being taken from others and placed in quote unquote animal care control facilities that's all about control and not about care. They euthanize them like that now. They don't even really work to find homes. And over the past few years, that's gotten worse. They were trying for a little while to give them a few days, but now, and who can even find homes for so many animals in just a few days? Well, now they just don't even care and they're just euthanizing them. And these dogs know. Dogs are smart and they know the energy in the room and they know that they're in a lot of trouble and that they're going to die and they're going to be forced to die. And these cows are no different. They're different intelligence levels, but still animals have a right to live on our planet. They're part of a kingdom, and that kingdom exists on our planet for a reason, not for slaughtering and injecting with drugs to see what the drugs do to them for specific big pharma drug tests, okay? This is happening to a lot of the beagles the beagle dogs. So hashtag help animals number 2 is what I am suggesting you contact me under to donate, because I'm going to help stop this. The next card from the Animal Tarot is the Magician, number 1. And the Magician means you have all the tools that you need to manifest this. So you have the tools you need, I have the tools I need. Let's get together and stop this cycle of abuse and profiting by forcing animals and people and babies into peril and into death, okay? So this big story is hunting all of us at this point, essentially. Unicorn. So unicorn is a magical horse, okay? And this is part of moving into the new earth, is realizing that there is this magic and we don't need to live in such slaughterhouse conditions. There is magic in the air, so you can manifest everything you need to be successful, and that is what this is talking about, okay? So keep the faith, have the faith, and step up, step out, step forward. The cow, again, reminds you the planning, the resources, which is what the Magician card is talking about. You can manifest everything you need to be successful, and invest in your dream to reap great rewards. And then when you earn those rewards, you pay it back again. And that's how this cycle is going to improve, and we're going to stop the cycle of abuse. So, doing that takes strength. But you're listening because likely you have an interest, since you've gotten this far, to do something, to care and increase the standard of care in the United States, involving life, improving life on our planet, not just human life, but also animal life, and protecting the plant kingdom as well. This card, Strength, number 11, is the Maasai lion and the lamb. True strength is displayed through kindness, forgiveness, and compassion, which is what I talked about in the recent past pile. You have tremendous personal power and courage. Okay? So Spirit is here to remind you of your courage and your power to help step up. And you can even peacock a little bit, okay, without getting too egotistical. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your achievement, but being prideful and arrogant is where people have gone wrong, and they subjugate those they think are beneath them. But we can see that animals are more evolved and loving toward their own than a lot of humans are to their own flesh and blood. Here the peacock reminds us that it's time to release the past, meaning the past emotions, and move on to something new. This is part of purging, cleansing, and going through that personal healing and happiness door. So this ending is going to bring about a celebratory new beginning, which is the first step on the way to what it says right here, a happier future. And we have the door to personal healing and happiness. And there's a white butterfly, which is pretty rare, I would say. And there's a white rose. Red rose, white rose. And for those who know about the War of the Roses, you'll learn more about, or realize that there's a little bit of that coming through here with the red and the white roses. Okay, so we have to release the negative emotions so that we can enter through the positive door of healing and happiness, personal healing and happiness. And this talks about the emperor, the little mouse, okay, the little industrious mouse who's finding his way through the maze. And this to me also speaks of the divine feminine and the masculine, divine masculine balance within one person, okay? And that's guided by the divine. So that's why the chakras are important. And this crown, it's not about being outwardly crowned as being superior. The new earth is going to be about what's going on the inside, okay? And God is going to crown you, okay? Because God is fair, man is not. And women who behave like these nasty, vicious, hypermasculine men who are trying to control every aspect of life, including the womb and the woman and the goddess energy. Even I learned by 2004, 5, 6, I was picking up on that. And that's when I started reading the book, The Alphabet versus the Goddess, written by a brain surgeon who happened to be traveling and was wondering what happened to the goddesses and why. So his research and my experiences and my subsequent research would end up segueing in my life. And that's why Spirit is also having me communicate about the goddess energy and in relation to 9/11 and the war on women. The book by Susan Faludi talks about this too. And she also wrote a book about fear and fantasy and 9/11. So that's Susan Faludi, Faludi. You can read about her, her observations, and she's pretty spot on. Dear Mouse, structure and organization are important right now. So don't be afraid to take a leadership role as you have much wisdom to offer, okay? So how can you, taking all this energy about the peacock, releasing the negativity, which helps you gain the strength and the clarity and the personal power, and that's also the chakras working through the root issues and the sacral sexual hang-ups and dominance issues to become more empowered to do the right thing and the truthful things, right? That's when the magic happens. And that's when you'll start manifesting the resources that you need to press forward. And that's exactly what I've gone through as well after disconnecting from the military industrial complex. Okay? Because they're not real emperors, they're not real kings. A lot of them are different types of kings, but none will become, a lot of them peacock, but they haven't done the inner work. Okay? Because they're working, for the monarchy or the oligarchy. That's the outward power, which is false power. We're talking about true empowerment here, okay? So the animals are here to teach us about this. So the next card is rest and rejuvenation. And rest and rejuvenation is key because you need to, in order to sustain a certain level of productivity, you also need to rest and get rejuvenated, okay? And this is number 19. And you can do that. Number 19 is the sun card in traditional tarot. So get out in the sun, protect your skin, but get out and absorb that radiant energy and meditate. And you will hear through your crown chakra as you ask for Spirit's guidance on how to best proceed, okay? Because that's exactly what I've had to do. The crow energy is also here with the animal ally and gemstone guardians, the crow and the lodestone. So I'll read these next. The crow. Messages come to me in many ways. I am an objective observer. I am mindful, not mindless. My intuition is getting stronger and more comfortable to me. I pay attention to the guidance I hear from the divine, or see. I am a magnet for all of the good things in life. I align with my spiritual strength. And lodestone. What are you drawing into your life? Are you getting alerts or warnings to pay attention? You may be receiving prophetic and even predictive indicators of things to come. There are many ways to hear and to learn, which I've been talking about. So take notice and remember that a warning isn't always a negative thing, right? It can be positive too. So I said in, I think the introduction or the second part of this reading, listen to how many times the crow caws and establish a pattern in your mind of what that might mean for you. And it can mean something entirely different to somebody else. But that's the neat thing about nature, okay? Nature is beautiful and is there for everybody to appreciate and enjoy and not trash, okay? So as you gain rest and rejuvenate, even under a tree, as I've recommended, to ground, think about these things and ask for the higher power's guidance to guide you through. I turned right to this card. Rock, number 20, endurance. Look for the groundedness in a chaotic situation. Be patient. Slow and steady is the way to success, which is also what they ironically teach in law school, or at least the law school that I went to. The obstacle is sometimes the way through, so do not be discouraged by slow progression, as long as progression is being made. Word of power, potentia, means to endure in Latin. Everyone knows a rock when they see it, although most of us do not notice much about them. There are three kinds of rocks: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. Rocks are a key component of the Earth's outer solid layer, the crust. And that's where I was talking about the minerals within these rocks, and the crystals, and the crystalline energy. The mining of rocks for human use has existed since prehistoric times. Rocks for building, metal ore, and gemstone content are but a few reasons they are mined at the scales that they are. And rocks are also mined for the gems, right? For crystal grids. So not just jewelry. Rocks can be shaped over time by elements such as water and wind, which I discussed when I talked about the cave, and rocks being houses and shelter, inward shelter from the elements. River rocks, for example, because of the erosion effects of the water, become smoothly shaped with no corners. On a huge scale, rocks such as those in the Grand Canyon have been worn down by water and wind, but they endure. In cultures that have a deep spiritual belief in the connectedness of everything and a close association with the land itself, know rocks as being alive as any animal or human. Thus, the rocks in the frameworks have stories to tell and lessons to teach us. Some are used in painting some to hold sacred tracts of water, and in ochre painting of the body to reinforce dances and spiritual rituals of culture. And again, this card is the element, representing the element of earth. And my Earth is Magical reading, you'll see in relation to celebration, you'll see a woman dressed in a yellow tribal outfit dancing. And it's a spiritual dance. It's part of her culture and ritual. And you can see that she's at one with the environment in which she dances. And it's sunny, and the color of yellow is coming up again, okay? And I also talked about the energy grids that you can see. And we know that many people of ancient times were in tune with, obviously, nature, but also with the ley lines and the energy grid of the earth, and in connection with the stars, right? Like Stonehenge, for instance. Okay, so again, courage was coming through twice with the lion and the lamb animal tarot card, and this red rose card from the language of flowers. I'm going to read this energy oracle card about rest and rejuvenation. I do want to say too, before I forget, that the bottom of the deck card for the animal allies and gemstone guardians is rabbit. Okay, and the top of the deck was the porcupine. The hummingbird is behind the rabbit, and Botswana agate is the gemstone guardian on the reverse of the rabbit card. All right, so that gives you an idea of some gemstones. Also, for this present energy pile, the garnet is here, and the angel wing, the large angel wing, indicating to me Archangel Michael, the large wing. Okay, and you can refer to that charm in other readings that I've done where it's shown up along with a small wing, as well as just independently on its own. So the Archangel Michael wants us to realize that there is a celebration coming as we overcome the difficulties and challenges with courage and strength, and, fortitude is another word for that, and love and compassion. Because the power of love is much stronger. And that provides us with an open door to personal healing and happiness when we connect with higher power and a higher standard of care. And there, I just went right to Archangel Michael, to his card in this energy deck. First chakra, which is the root chakra, where we gain our stability and security, right? Thank you, Archangel Michael. And he's reminding us about patience, even with financial constraints, because there is a storm upon us. It's been upon us for quite a while, and it's been part of my life for several decades before I realized just what all was behind it. So rest and rejuvenation. Number 19 is here. Relaxation and meditation. In the upright, this card shows a man in a meditative and tranquil state. The message here is that it's time to relax! Exclamation point. You may have been busy lately, which is what the bee card was showing, right? With the marigolds and the bees. But you should soon be finding more time to just let go. And when you do this, allow yourself to go within and to open up to the peace and the wisdom that are vibrating there. Okay? So opportunities are coming in, but it requires rest and rejuvenation in order to go the next steps. Okay? So you want to be available for what is vibrating best to best suit you. So if you don't get chosen for a job or by a certain person for a relationship, etc., know that other things are in the works to help move you along your life path, the direction that you need to go. And I've had to learn that too, and to be patient. This card in the upright indicates that there should be more leisure time for you now, and even more of an opportunity to engage in peaceful thinking. So make it a priority! Exclamation point. Your connection to spirit brings great assistance, but it can only be achieved through regular relaxation and meditation, which is what I was saying. So go meditate under a tree, right? It's one of the best places to be. Now is a great time to make sure you insert this gentle activity of meditation into your daily life. In many ways, this is far more productive than unceasing action. So yes, accidents can happen if you're relentless in your pursuits and not getting the rest and rejuvenation that your body needs. So listen to your body. Yes, okay. And the rabbit card says here, I pause and reflect on the patterns revealed to me. Different perspectives, even though you might not agree with them, give you insight and understanding into how other people are thinking or not thinking. It's easy for me to give birth to ideas. My creative endeavors come to fruition. I find balance with the cycles of life, and you do that when you rest and rejuvenate, right? So you can be fertile with ideas and take action, but you also need rest. And on the back of this bottom of the deck, Animal Allies and Guardian Gemstones card is Botswana Agate. Do you see things from a different angle and observe what others may not notice? Are you fertile with great ideas? It's time to observe your surroundings with alertness and focus. So rest, but also in this peace, it will help you to focus more clearly. Be aware of the cycles of life. Notice changes with the moon cycles and the movement of things around you. It does affect you, so be aware of all that is going on. Align yourself with the cyclical energy of life. And that's the Botswana Agate message, okay? And again, we have a 19 card here, a 20 card, number 20 card. So that's the Sun card and the Judgment card in traditional tarot. We also have Spring, with the cow. Autumn with the cow, Seven of Autumn, along with the Magician and the Strength card, and the Release card, which is the Death card in tarot. So the old is dying away, and the Emperor card is here. The old is dying away so that you can become the Emperor, the Empress, right? So we have how many major arcana here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 out of 5 of the animal tarot cards for the present into the future, near future energy are major arcana. Strength. As you release, you gain strength and you manifest what you need, right? Okay. So So I'm going to stop for now, and I'm going to come back and I'll read the final card as well. And the porcupine, remember, is on the top of the deck card. So you want to stay away from the prickly situations, and that will help you rest. I'm getting a little sign here. I don't know if you can see it about my batteries. So, okay. So yeah, we don't want to get in prickly situations. And that's what I was learning. The crow was actually cawing to let me know that there were very prickly situations coming around me in my life, and to actually tell me about that impact on my animal companions. So crows do pay attention and know what's going on. The third pile I'll be going through, and that is represented with the celestite crystal, as well as the rabbit with a tennis racket. So maybe you can go do some sports, right? I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a little bunny rabbit with a racket. Okay, so I'll be back to talk about the third pile, which is the future, near future, future position. And I'll reveal the bottom of the deck card for the Language of Flowers Oracle, as well as I'll revisit the Moonology cards that I talked about in the second part. And I will pull, I will talk about the Gateway Oracle again. I think I showed that as well. And I will pull an Atlantis card, Atlantis Oracle card. Namaste.